A very good afternoon to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pak Ardan, Ketua IAI Indonesia, President of the IFAC, and a lot of colleagues which I'm very happy to meet here. There are a lot of my seniors. Ada Pak Robert, aku tuh baru ngeh Pak Robert Pak Pahan itu adalah akuntan ternyata. I know Pak Robert too much as a Director General of Tax and not so much as a Indonesian accountant. My colleagues, Prof. Siddhartha Utama, who's also at the board of the IFAC, Professor Linda Wakti Gani, a lot of colleagues from academia, from the business sectors, and of course, all accountants, Indonesian accountants who are here. And especially I would like to welcome the IFAC members who are coming to Jakarta for the IFAC Connect Asia Pacific 2025. Welcome to Jakarta, welcome to Indonesia, and I hope that you are more and more convinced that Indonesian accountants are all it's a flourishing environment, flourishing professionals there. And despite the fact that if you look at from the States up here, a lot of accountants in the room, but I can assure you, the colleagues from IFAC, that this is only a very, very super small portion of Indonesian accountants who are looking after the Indonesian economy and the profession of accountants in Indonesia. So I would like to convey my gratitude for the invitation to the Ministry of Finance to speak before all of you in this occasion of 68th anniversary of Ikatan Akuntan Indonesia and also the IFAC Connect Asia Pacific 2025. 68 years of Indonesian accountant. Congratulations, happy anniversary. And it is a privilege to the Republic of Indonesia, to the Indonesian economy, to have a very strong, very professional accountant who are working side by side with the business sector, side by side with the government policymakers, and also everyone to ensure the accountability, the trustworthiness of the financial reports, financial data that are really needed for the country if we would like to improve the welfare of the people. So I can tell you that I would like to use this opportunity to share with you a little bit the vision of Indonesia. And I believe that you probably heard this all and all again. So for the Indonesian accountants who have already heard this, please bear with me a little bit. But I think it's very important to share to the world the aspirations of Indonesia. And we always use the year 2045 as a benchmark because that would mark the 100 years of Indonesia's independence. And by 2045, we have aspirations to become sovereign, advanced, and prosperous country. Easy to say, but then a lot of works to do. Strong middle income class, and of course we need to have resilient economy. We want in terms of population, we will be more than 320 million people in 20 years' time, 65% working age population. middle income class 70%, and more than 70% of urban areas. If we are now around 55% urban areas, in 20 years' time, 2/3 of Indonesian areas would have been urban areas. Business, urban lifestyle, urban business, and a lot of business sectors that we need to support in order to be able to become the Indonesia Emas 2045. We want economic growth, but economic growth is not the only thing that we want. We want sustainability. We want inclusiveness. We want credibility. We require investment in human capital, in infrastructure, in technology, better productivity. We want strong institutions. We want strong and effective institutions for the policy, for the policy as well as in the business sector. And especially for the Ministry of Finance, we want effective institutions to manage the public money. And of course, we have to do all of this. We have to achieve these visions in the world that is very, very dynamic at this time. In the last couple of years, the dynamics, usually we always approach the dynamics in terms of the upside risk and also the downside risk that we are facing. But what happens is that probably 5 areas that we see in the middle. Bu Sophie, selamat datang. The global value chains are now, there is a reconfiguration of the global supply chains. It is quite mind-boggling. If we have to predict 5 years to the future, which countries or which regions are going to be the friend of the number 1 and number 2 economies in the world. Because sometimes now it's not very clear who are the friends of whom and who are the enemy of whom. It is very hard to make the strategic alliance to the future. But yet, we have to do it. We have to link. The other is that financial sector volatility. It is something that is constantly changing, constantly volatile, in addition to the climate change awareness that we start to have, and we believe that this climate change awareness going to shape up a different world in the future. But we have to start now. Rising geopolitical tensions, and of course, the people is aging. In that sense, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that as part of the global world, Indonesia and all countries in the world do not compete only in terms of GDP numbers. It is more than just GDP numbers. We are also have another sphere of competition, and I believe that is the trust. It's very important to gain trust in the middle of the world that is constantly changing, and it is very important that we put in place the trust for policies, trust for institutions, and trust in numbers, in the data that we create. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that as we progress toward the Indonesia 2045 aspirations, we are facing with the complex world, as I mentioned earlier, and then in the midst of those challenges, the short-term macroeconomic challenges is always difficult. I would like to show you this graph. The countries that are spotted here. are primarily coming from the G20 countries and the ASEAN countries. And Indonesia, we put in the middle, not in the middle, in the dotted box over there. The countries are put on the from the left to the right according to the, I think this is according to the GDP growth. So Indonesia is among the top GDP growth among the G20 and the ASEAN. And the blue bars representing the inflation rate. And we can see that the combination of economic growth and inflation that Indonesia have is not very easy to get. This is a combination that I can say that becoming an envy of a lot of economies in the world. Relatively high economic growth with relatively low inflation. Inflation at the level around 2.7% and economic growth at the level of 5%. This is Indonesian latest number, and 5% economic growth has been quite regular for Indonesia after the COVID pandemic. And you can see that a lot of countries among the G20 and among the ASEAN, lower economic growth with higher inflation. It is not something that is easy to handle. And I believe that Indonesia, this is one of the testament of how the macroeconomic policy in Indonesia has been dealt with. We managed to have relatively high economic growth with relatively stable prices in the country. More than that, the macroeconomic fundamentals, we can dig in more indicators if you wish, but what I would like to say here that growth, relatively high growth and relatively stable prices can be translated into improvement in the welfare of the people. Lower poverty rates. I don't know if the poverty rates is here. Lower unemployment. Yeah, on the upper right. Unemployment rate has been declining to 4.85% by mid-year this year. Poverty rate declined to 8.47% by March 2025, with also declining inequality as represented by the Gini ratio. So, ladies and gentlemen, the macroeconomic policy, macroeconomic management of Indonesia, I can say that we have a very strong feeling that macroeconomic management of this country is paying off. Now, one of the fundamentals of the macroeconomic management is the budget management, the state budget management. And of course, at the end of the day, it's all about the public welfare, and the fiscal policy is one of the arms that we need to make sure to continue to work for the people. And of course, Indonesian economy has always have these we call it three pillars. Sometimes we call it the trilogy of the economic development of this country. Number one is how to get the high and sustainable economic growth. Economic growth is very important. Number two is how to get equitable distribution of prosperity. Growth and distribution. And number three is the stability. Sometimes these three are not easy to combine. But economic stability is very important if we want to have growth. There is no way that we can get the high growth if we don't have good stability in the economy. And of course, this is also the principles that the state budget is putting. There will be another slide for the fiscal policy role that is very much in line with this three agenda. But ladies and gentlemen, before moving to this slide, come back to the previous slide, please. Fiscal policy is not a standalone. I believe this morning you have a presentation from colleagues from the central bank. But I would like to mention investment on the right-hand side and the financial sector in the middle. Financial sector, which is intermediaries, that is connecting those who have money and those who needs money. Fiscal policy and the investment policy, this is on the executive branch of the government. And all of this have to be accountable, have to be reliable. And it is very important that if I go the next one on the state budget, it is very important to see that the budget is a tool to fulfill the vision of the government. Now, the President Prabowo has 8 areas of priorities: the food security, energy security, the free nutrition meals, educational program, health programs, village development cooperative, micro, small, medium enterprises, universal defense, and also accelerating global trade and investment. And the budget is always designed together with the investment policy that is now in the hand of Danantara to support these 8 priorities. The budget itself always has 3 functions. Number 1, budget is a stabilization tool. Number 2, budget is an allocation tool. It's a tool for allocation. And number 3, budget and fiscal policy is the tool for redistribution. And I believe that each one of you understand this very well, but I think it's worth to mention that as a distribution, the budget, we know, should provide solutions. We are taxing from those people with income, and we use the government revenue, taxpayers' money, to improve the well-being of the needy. Allocation is a function of budget where the budget acts as a development agent. The budget is allocated to certain areas that we really hope can crowd in, not only investment, but crowd in the GDP. Indonesian budget is around 12 or 13% of our GDP. So 87% of the Indonesian GDP is created by the households, created by the business sectors. The question is always, what is the best use of 12-13% government spending in the GDP that can maximize the remaining 80%, the remaining 88% of the GDP creation. And then of course, budget is a stabilization tool. A lot of features in our budget is actually designed so that the Indonesian population does not have to be exposed to the economic and financial sector shocks in the global arena. The price of our electricity, the price of our energy, the incentive for the tax incentive, they are all designed so that the population of Indonesia does not have to be exposed directly to changes in the international prices. There are prices to pay, of course, and it is very important that we recognize the price that we have to pay, we recognize the bill, and at some point we get the people's consensus to ask whether we are still going to pay for the subsidy, whether we are still going to pay for the incentives, and so on. And in order to be able to come up with a meaningful discussion with the people, I believe accountability is very, 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 very important. And in terms of the Indonesian budget, the accountability is established that every year government's budget is audited by our Supreme Auditor, and in order for the Supreme Auditor Board to be able to assess budget's fairness and compliance, then it has to come up with a standard. And of course, the result of the Supreme Auditor is submitted to the Parliament for the Parliament to discuss with the government what are the improvements in the budget implementation that we should do in the years to come. Standards are very important, and I believe that my colleagues at the Ministry of Finance has been very close to the Indonesian accounting standard. As a standard setter, there will be some changes in the future, but we will continue to work with the Ministry of Finance and also the IAI in order to come up with the right standards for the government accounting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring you one thought, which is a little bit which has been the discussion at the Ministry of Finance for a number of years, especially during the COVID pandemic. During the COVID pandemic, Indonesia is known very well that we are one of very few countries in the world that can manage the COVID pandemic, making the balance between health and economic growth fairly well. And of course, during the COVID pandemic, the state budget gets into something that is very, very, that we never done in the last 2 decades. We had the special law, which allowed the government to do budget deficit higher than 3%. In 2021, and fortunately, we are very proud that 2022, we were able to come back to below 3% budget deficit. The point is that the government in the economic management, in the microeconomic policy management, government budget has to be counter-cyclical. The government budget must be counter-cyclical. When everyone was having a party, it is the government who should remind everyone, hey, cool down. But at the time when the economy is under quite some pressures, just like the COVID pandemic, it is the government budget that needs to be at the counter-cyclical mode, and basically government is spending money. Now, this is somewhat different from the business sector. Business sector has to be pro-cyclical. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to ask you, the accountants, if the government is decidedly to take counter-cyclical policy, it is because of the stabilization. And I believe that the pro-cyclical policy at the at the business sector, at some point should also contribute to the stabilization policy at the macro level, especially when the whole economy is under a lot of pressures. Now, where is the balance? How to strike the right balance? I'm very happy to see Ibu Sofia Watimena over here because during the COVID pandemic, OJK, our financial supervision agency, introduced a lot of regulatory forbearance during the period in order for to facilitate the economy to be able to pass through the COVID pandemic. Now, regulatory forbearance, usually we don't do that during the normal period. We do it during the pressures. But it is also very important to make sure that regulatory forbearance should not becoming like continued forever. Question to my fellow accountants: is it only at the realm of the policy, or is it something that accountants, if accountants can also endorse that, would that be endorsed through standard or strictly through policy? I believe that we have a lot of debates in the Ministry of Finance when we face the COVID pandemic. A lot of question about how standards can help the whole Indonesia to maneuver the whole pandemic. This is an open question, and I would like to ask you about this. And I would like to end this keynote by saying that there is one more thing before I end. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever we do the public communication, I mean, the Ministry of Finance, we do the public communication, both in Parliament, in Cabinet, to the investors, to the public, to the media as a whole. There are usually two imperative questions that we face. Number one, are the numbers credible? Number two, are the institutions behind the numbers strong enough? So in that sense, I would like to have your opinion about 3 points that I would like to ask for the accountants today. Number one, we have to continue to make sure we have high quality financial reporting. And of course, standard and also understanding about the narratives are very important. Number two, sustainability. To some extent, I always think that the stabilization policy and sustainability are pretty much linked, very well linked. We go with the sustainability because we don't want something that is unstable. We want it to be sustainable to the future with good stability. Number three, the digitalization and AI. Very, very often we heard that the work of accountant can be replaced by the AI. Very interesting. I start to say that to my staff at the Ministry of Finance as well. Government accountants, are you going to be replaced by the technology? I think so. Certain jobs, certain tasks, certain activities can be replaced. Certain others cannot. But I would like to give you one very hard fact about the Ministry of Finance, more especially the Directorate General of Treasury. My Directorate General of Treasury, 15 years ago, when it was established for the first time, 70 years ago, there were around 13,000 people at the DG Treasury Indonesia. Right now, 6,000. It already cut down by more than half. And of course, as you can guess, the backbone now is the technical IT. And if I ask my Director General, who happens right now, Pak Prima, he said that something like, Pak, I can cut down even more. Just give me the time. We don't have to lay off, we don't have to fire people. Naturally, it will go down. So on the era of digitalization and AI and accounting, it is something that I believe fellow accountants will be able to discuss further. So let me stop here, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, I would like to thank you again for inviting the Ministry of Finance to share some of our thoughts, some of our discussions within the ministry. And I wish you fruitful discussion. And for those who are coming from abroad, I hope you are able to go out and see Jakarta more and enjoy Jakarta and Indonesia. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.